Hey friends, what's up? It's Ken here. Listen, right now I'm hosting a major online event. It's called Succeed in 2026 in Real Estate Investing. But during one of the talks I was just listening to, because I wasn't talking at the moment, it's happening right now, something came into my mind about politics. And I can't believe that I'm even doing videos and talking about politics. But if you live in the province of Ontario and you're somebody who actively votes in municipal and provincial elections, I'm going to give you a tip for something you should be looking for in potential candidates that's going to change the way you think about voting and what really matters if we're going to make Ontario great again. And we're going to get into it right after this.
Hey, my name's Ken Dunn, and I'm a real estate investor. I want to welcome you to the No Money Real Estate Podcast. On this show, I'm going to interview elite level real estate investors from all over North America. And I'm going to help you to see one thing that all successful real estate investors have in common. They built their portfolios without using a dime of their own money. I've got a portfolio of $300 million in real estate. That includes resorts, apartment buildings, commercial buildings, and I built the entire portfolio without using a dime of my own money. Real estate is a business that anybody can get into, but the strategies that those tight real estate investors use to build massive portfolios have been kept secret for decades. Now, because of this show, I'm going to reveal them to you. So let's get started.
Okay, listen, a lot of the things that I talk about when it comes to politics and our elected officials really comes from my business in real estate. I own a major real estate development company. We're building resorts across Canada right now. We own a major portfolio of short-term rental properties. So hospitality, short-term rental properties. I also own a major training company, and we're building a mastermind group called the Investors Growth Syndicate. There are literally hundreds and hundreds of real estate investors from right across Canada inside of this group. We support them, we help them raise money, we help them find properties, all kinds of amazing stuff. But because of that, we've had probably about 185 of our members are from the province of Alberta, and I live in the province of Ontario. So daily, I'm in conversations with real estate investors in Alberta, and we're talking about what we're doing in Ontario, and I'm hearing what's going on just a little bit down the road in the same damn country in terms of real estate investing and how things are. And listen, unless you have a rock under your head, then you already know where I'm going with these comments and this information. The fact of the matter is, Alberta is probably our fastest growing province in this entire country. The cost of living in Alberta is significantly lower than in Ontario. The amount of new homes that are being built are significantly more than Ontario. And listen to this, our economy is growing faster in Alberta than in Ontario. So it's more expensive to live in Ontario. It's harder to live in Ontario. Now, people do make more money in their jobs in Ontario because it costs more money to live. But I've started recently thinking about why is that happening and what changes could we make in Ontario that could help Ontarians, could help the people that live here, that could drive down costs, that could do things better. And I think it starts with our elected officials. And so if you have a municipal election coming up in wherever you live, or if there's a provincial election coming up, I want to put these thoughts into your head, and I want you to use these thoughts to make your decisions on who you're electing. Going forward, I'm going to refuse to vote for any elected official unless they understand what's making Alberta grow. Because that's what we need to be doing here in Ontario, is looking at the other provinces in Canada that are doing better than us, that people are happier than the people in our province, and seeing what we can do to make changes in Ontario that are going to make things better for everything around us. So let's talk about the real estate landscape for a second. You've seen other videos that I've produced about this. But the fact of the matter is, in the province of Alberta, we have significantly more multifamily buildings, so apartment buildings that are being built, and rents are lower on apartments. People are literally getting better places to stay in apartments and rental housing in Alberta than in Ontario. And I did a deep dive into this. I started studying why this is happening. And what I discovered, you're not going to believe. It's the opposite of what everybody thinks in Ontario. So in Ontario, we have this really, really painful rental marketplace right now where we have an oversight board called the Tenant Landlord Tribunal, and we have rent controls in place that landlords are not allowed to increase their rents in Ontario by any more than 2% per year, and you're not allowed to kick people out. So if you're renting an apartment in Ontario to a tenant and they refuse to pay the rent for any reason, you can't kick them out, which makes no sense to me whatsoever. But this was the government of Ontario thinking that they were doing something to protect everybody. You know what they did? They screwed up the rental market by putting that rule in place. Now, bear with me for a second here. I'll explain this in a second. You might not agree with me right now, but I guarantee you will in a second. Because of the rental rules that are in place in Ontario and the rent controls that are in place in Ontario, landlords who own apartment buildings have no incentive to renovate the apartment buildings and make them better. So they're turning into a bunch of slumlords. See, in a proper, healthy rental market, people will pay what the properties are worth. And so if there were no rent controls, landlords would renovate their buildings and they'd charge more for rent and people would pay the rent. Now, right away you're saying, well, that's the problem. The rents are too much. Here's the other side to this issue. If we look at the province of Alberta, there are no rent controls. Landlords can charge what they want for rent. And because of that, with the CMHC rules that are in place right now, somebody who wants to build an apartment building, they can get a mortgage over 50 years, which makes it very, very cheap, and you can make a lot of money doing apartment buildings. But it's because of the rent controls. So what happens now? Because in Alberta there are no rent controls, more people are building apartment buildings and renovating apartment buildings in that province. You know what that's doing? It's creating a surplus in the market. There are more buildings and apartments available for people to rent than in Ontario. In Ontario, because the construction of new apartment buildings is at historic lows, nobody's building new apartment buildings. That means there's a limit to the amount of rental properties available and the rents go up. See, this is a different way of thinking. What I'm telling you is the rental control strategy that the province of Ontario put in place failed. It didn't work, and it's not working. What they need to do is radically overhaul that entire strategy, get rid of rent controls, put favorable conditions in place so more apartment buildings can be built. And you know what's going to happen? They'll get built. I know hundreds and hundreds of real estate investors in Ontario who want to start building apartment buildings and rental properties in Ontario. You know what's stopping them? Rental controls. You know what they're doing right now? Ontario real estate investors are going to Alberta and building properties out there. Now, here's the part that most people don't understand, is the hardest part for somebody to understand, is that the people that are in favor of rent controls, they're thinking that that's actually going to protect the tenants. But you know what it's doing? It's forcing the rates to go up, because those people that own those apartment buildings, they can't renovate them, they can't do anything with them, but their expenses are going up. So every chance they get to, they're going to increase it to 2%. They're going to increase it to 2%. But what happened if there were no rent controls and massive new projects started, which means more rental properties are available in the market? We're going to get to where Alberta is right now. In Alberta, there's a surplus. So think about this. If I own an apartment building in Ontario and there's a surplus, means there's lots of vacant units, and I want to get my units full, what am I going to do? You're right. They're going to decrease the prices. So the prices are going to come down to get people into those units. Now, in Alberta, they do have a tribunal so that if a tenant has an issue with a landlord, if the tenant believes the landlord's charging too much, they can go to the tribunal and the landlord will be charged significant fines if they're trying to gouge people. So what I'm getting at with this whole who do you elect? Elect politicians that understand this problem. Elect politicians that understand what's happening in another province and want to make the changes in Ontario to make it Ontario great again. You want to get rents to come down in rental units in Ontario? You know what you have to do? Build more units. Build so many more units that there's a surplus. And then there becomes a demand. It becomes a renter's market. Just like in real estate, if there's lots of places to sell and not a lot of people are buying them, the price of the properties comes down. It becomes a buyer's market and buyers have more options. We can do that with rental units. Get rid of the rental controls completely. Reform the tenant landlord board completely. Adopt the same model that exists in Alberta. It's working very, very profitably for everybody. Rent prices are going to come down again. More properties are going to be built, and we're going to fix this housing problem we have in Ontario. So my point to you about electing officials is, if you're going to elect a municipal official, if you're going to elect a provincial official, ask them what they think about the rental housing problem in Ontario right now. And if you don't hear them saying the types of things that I've just told you, don't elect them, because they're going to be part of the problem.